I've heard you in the past push back on the idea of just bolting streaming on as sort of a sidecar to the broadcast workflow. Can you talk a little more about that, sort of what the changes that come along with ingest contribution and streaming
Yeah.
operations?
Yeah. So I think the easy answer and the most obvious one is that when you rethink your workflow and not just bolt on your stream experience to the end of a legacy broadcast workflow, of course, you lower latency, you improve quality through less transcodes and conversions and compression points. You're lowering your points of failure. I think, though, less obvious pieces are operations, as an example,
Hmm.
as they relate to the end user experience. And so if you, again, just bolt that piece onto the end, you're now duplicating your operator requirement. And sometimes duplicating that as many times as four times, depending on what your workflow looks like. And they're all different. But by streamlining those operations, you're also streamlining the final output and you're gaining consistency from show to show, which I think is really important from a viewer. So as an example, if you have a director on an AD line who might be counting down to an ad break,
Hmm.
and you've got in they're in production control and they go to black, then your master control operator may be counting additional counts because of the latency in the workflow before they fire off a SCUDdy trigger for that ad break. Then you're handing that signal off to a digital operator who's distributing that out to your OTT platform, your direct to consumer platform, and they are counting some more and adding different triggers depending on what the requirement is of that platform. You just have inconsistencies everywhere. Frame
Right.
alignment for ad breaks. You have to go back and cut your content for post event live VOD pieces. So if we streamline those pieces, the end consumer experience is tremendously improved. And of course, that requires a much tighter integration with your broadcast team. You almost need to act as a single team rather than bespoke pieces across that workflow.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're not only sort of consolidating experience across the programming and the shows, you're doing it across the devices and the destinations that you're
Yeah,
reaching out
absolutely.
to,
Super
which is
critical, right? Like it doesn't
yeah.
matter if it's our content. Our content is our content. So if I deliver that to HBO Max, but we're also handing that off to Comcast, they should be the same level of quality. Not
Right.
everybody can take the same level of quality on
Sure.
ingest for your syndication partners, but that's okay. You still have a single flow and you derive everything from those points for those deliverables.
When you talk about sort of treating it as a single team versus the sort of the multiple, how does it change the way you talk to the teams across broadcast and direct to consumer?
It's definitely forced us to have brand new lines of communication. And we do have to integrate very, very tightly. So it's a constant back and forth with our broadcast team. We have calls every hour, Slack messages, all these things. There's definitely value, and that value has been recognized. So I think it's been a unique and interesting few years for us as we've learned what each other's passions and restrictions are across some of these different functions and try to find unique ways to get around them.